doing? Was lunch good? Good. Well, now I'm hopefully going to keep you awake because I know after lunch I want to go into a food coma. So this is interactive. It's not a lecture. I want you to jump in with questions or comments or sharing your stories, whatever it might be in the appropriate moment. And I also want to tell you that everything you need to know about creating and delivering a powerful presentation is in the little sheet, the little handout I gave you. What's unique about this presentation is I'm not going to go over everything in this handout. This is something for you to take home. What I am going to do is I'm going to highlight a couple of things that I think are really important in providing a powerful presentation that they don't really talk about or really focus about in Toastmasters or in any sort of class where you're learning presentation skills. So see the handout for all those wonderful things, and we're going to focus on just a few things today. First, I'm going to introduce myself. I'm Menze, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about who I am and what I do. We're going to talk about the power of story in your presentations and how those are really effective. The value of authenticity and being vulnerable, which I heard you heard a little bit about at the previous speaker today, as well as building confidence. We don't talk about building confidence in doing presentations. We just do the stuff to eventually build our confidence. And there's a few key things that you're going to be able to learn to do to help build your confidence in order to get up and do a presentation. And that includes how to do a ta-da, and I'll get to that in a little bit later in our presentation. And then we'll wrap it up. So I am originally from Chicago, and I used to work in the corporate world. I used to do international marketing for an aerospace paint company. Not exactly what I dreamed about when I was young and 16 or whatever. You know, paint is not a very exciting industry to be in, but if you're going to be in paint, let me tell you, aerospace paint is sexy. So I was in this world of aerospace paint and living the glamorous life, doing all the things that one would think would be exciting, traveling internationally, making a good living, rubbing elbows with some pretty exciting people, but I wasn't feeling very fulfilled. And I knew I always wanted to own my own business. So I started thinking, okay, well, if I want to own my own business, what would that be? Because I wanted it to be something I was passionate about and not something like paint, where I had a hard time getting passionate about it. So I stumbled into life coaching. I took my first coaching class, and the very first day of my first class, I was out of my mind. I went home that night and I didn't even sleep. I was so excited that I had found something that I loved. So ever since then, I incorporated my business while working full-time. And just 2 months after I incorporated, my company laid me off. So I had a choice. Being on my own, I had to figure out what am I going to do to make money and pay my mortgage. So I started looking for marketing positions, because that's what I used to do. And I started building my business. And I quickly found myself doing the splits. I found that I couldn't do both at the same time and do both really well. So I had to make a choice. I had to make a decision. And I thought to myself, would I regret not trying to build this business? Yes, absolutely. So I left the marketing aside and I just went for it. And I have no regrets. So today, what I do, since 2009, I've been a life and relationship coach, and I help people figure out what they want to do and go for it and create the life that they want. And I also help singles in the dating world in navigating the dating world and learning how to build that relationship that they really want to create. So I like to say I help people, good people, become great in life and love. I still walk my talk. I moved to Denver about 2 years ago because Denver has mountains. I'm originally from Chicago. It's flat and all corn. And the only mountain in the area was the Sears Tower, and I wasn't about to climb that. So I went from Chicago to Denver not knowing a soul here. And I'll tell you a little bit more about my journey in coming to Denver. But how I landed on this stage was because I am in Toastmasters. And Toastmasters is a fabulous organization that teaches you a lot about how to build presentations, make presentations, as well as a little bit about leadership. And if you don't know Toastmasters, I'll tell you a little bit more about it later on. First, I want to talk about the power of story. But I want to know from you, and if Dana can help me out here for a moment, why do you think it's important to incorporate stories into your presentations? I want to hear from you. What do you think is important about stories? Raise your hand, shout it out right behind you, Dana.
Because it helps build, I think, the relationship. When you bring into your some personal information about yourself, it makes that person, I think, trust that you're really being honest and open with them. If you're not just talking straight business or whatever, obviously you're going to feel closer to that person knowing something about them.
Great.
Let's see, Ronnie, right over here. I think people remember stories. I think it makes a connection that just telling them facts and figures, they don't always engage quite as effectively.
I agree. Any others?
Go on, Jill, real quick. I'll come back.
There's validity to a story. It's not just a thought. You know, you saw where it started and how it ended and what happened in between, and you can connect the dots.
Good.
I think it just reinforces what you're trying to tell them in just a more palatable way.
Good. Right behind you.
I think it establishes a common ground sometimes when people can identify with what the story is. I had that same experience, I had that same feeling, those kinds of things.
Good. Fantastic. It makes you memorable. It makes you relatable, and it helps to build the relationship. People do business with people they know, like, and trust. I'm seeing a lot of heads bob, like, I know that, yeah. But they need to get to know you, and how do they get to know you? Well, when you tell your stories, they get to know you, and then they start to like you. And as they see more consistency in you, they'll start to trust you. So stories are really powerful. And I'm going to bet that when you walk out of here today, you won't remember anything that was on my slides, but you'll remember maybe a story or part of a story. And that's really important because that makes that connection for you. So what stories do you have that you could incorporate into your presentations? I want you to give this some thought. Maybe some of you have a story or two, maybe it's about a client or a unique use of a promotional product that you hadn't thought of that a client did. Something that really would be memorable or helpful in relating to your customers and your clients. Does anybody have a story? Great.
I'm going to start telling stories, people, okay? No, I had a bank president. I stopped in his office, and I know his two assistant ladies very well, and I left a couple of pens with stylus on them, and they gave him one of them. And I get a phone call from the bank president's Bank of Oklahoma. It's a pretty big operation. And he calls me and he goes, Teresa, this pen you left, it's just so cool. I want to give it to my mother. She has trouble texting. And I said, oh yeah, Mark, I think it's a great idea. Go ahead. And he goes, no. I need to know that you're going to bring me another one. So I have sold the heck out of pens with styluses on the end because I tell the Mark story. And
fantastic. See? Stories work. Anybody else with a quick story? Who wants to share? Okay.
Well, I have one I'll share.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. When I first started in the industry, I had someone send a whole bunch of fortune cookies to my office and thought it would be great. So I went and handed them out to all my employees. Brand new manager, 21 years old, never managed. Well, they were like joke fortune cookies. So inside of it, it's like, oh, you're as fat as a cow or something. So I have all my employees coming to me just mortified that I hand them these fortune cookies that have these really rude remarks in them. I was mortified.
Well, that story will make you memorable. So stories are really important, and it's important to incorporate humor in your stories. They make you relatable, and even an embarrassing human moment like that, too, right? So I have a quick little story I have about coming to Denver. I always knew there was the brand North Face, but I never really understood the name North Face until I noticed, living here in Denver, the north side of the buildings are always still covered with snow, or the ground over there, and the north side of a mountain is always covered with snow still, and everything else is melted off. Oh, the north side of a mountain is really cold. It's the cold side that doesn't get any of the sun. So hence, that's the area of the place that's the coldest, and the north face of the mountain is where you'd want to have something nice and warm, like the North Face brand. So that's my silly story because I come from Chicago not knowing anything about mountains. So it's really important with your stories to keep things light and fun. There's also value in being vulnerable and authentic. Why do you think it's important to be authentic and genuine? What do you think is important about that? Anybody want to take a crack at that? I heard relatable, trust. It's easier to maintain, that's for sure. It's hard to maintain a lie. What did I say? I forgot. That is great because authenticity and being genuine is when you start connecting with people, or they connect with you. They can empathize with you, they can identify with you, they can relate with you. Again, it's building that know, like, and trust. It's also very important to know your material. I used to have to do presentations about paint. The dry time, the application, the colors, a lot of technical things that was just really dry and boring. So I gotta tell you, my presentations back in the corporate world were not really good. They were really difficult because I didn't want to know the material. I didn't want to memorize dry times and application techniques and things like that. So it's really important for you to not only know your material, but be passionate about it. Love what you're talking about. Enjoy what you're talking about. When you are enjoying what you're talking about, it's easier to remember it. It's easier to know what it is you are talking about to your presentation audience. So how can you be excited about something or passionate about something that really isn't very exciting to you? Any ideas? Because I had to sell paint, so I had to learn how to get passionate about paint. Let's go watch it dry. So how do you think you could get passionate about some products that you may just not be, Yeah.
Less focus on the product and more focus on the benefit and what it could do. It might not be exciting, but the result is exciting.
Yeah, the result of the product, what the product offers somebody, right? What else? Anything else?
You can also share in someone else's excitement if it's not something that maybe you've really drawn from yet, but you can take a case study or a history or a story of someone else who is really excited about that and you start to share it, you'll find yourself getting excited about it too.
That's good. That's great. I think there's one more over there.
Trying to find different uses for that product.
Good. Yeah.
I sold Revlon years ago, and at that time in my life, the Revlon is just not the brand I liked. But the way I did it was to convince store managers that the profit dollars they could make by stacking it out and stacking it high would be advantageous to them. So I never had to say that Revlon was a good product. I just sold it on the angle of, you guys can make money here.
See, the end result, like you said. It's also possible that you could look and be grateful for something that it offers you. Whatever that product, there's maybe something that it offers you, or maybe there's a learning or a positive of something. I personally, I'm going to be honest, I'm not a fan of stress relievers. I don't know how to get passionate about them. And I don't know if any of you feel the same way about them, but if you're not feeling passionate about these stress relievers that you all can sell, how could you be passionate about them? What could you say about them that they would get you a little bit more excited to talk about them? Yeah. Great.
So my papu uses it for his hand exercises in the morning. So he's just turned 90 last week, so he uses them to get his hands going.
That's great. So it's even got a medical use. Anybody else?
The great thing too about them is that they can be customized to a specific logo that you can identify with. It makes you feel fun and excited.
Yeah.
Stress relievers have a lot of play value to them. They're fun, and it can relax you in a setting, or you're in a meeting and you're bored. You just pick it up and you play with it.
They're a fun way to put into a creative packaging to send a message to whatever the client wants to bring home a point. It's just a light way to bring home a message, that's all. But it's very lightweight and it's easy to mail.
That's true. It's unbreakable. I like that one. So sometimes being authentic can be difficult. It can be difficult to be who you are, especially up on a stage or in a large presentation room. So is there something that you might need to let go of in order to be authentic? It's kind of a coaching question.
I think you need to leave your ego at the door.
Leave your ego at the door. Good. What else?
You need to let go of worrying about what other people are going to think about you.
Exactly. It's about letting go of having approval from everyone or having everyone like you, because you're not going to have everyone like you. I mean, you hope to, right? But it's just not going to happen, and that's okay. It's not about everyone liking you. It's really about the message that you're conveying to them and whether or not they got that message. And besides, it's, you got to love you. It's self-love, baby. So Bill Cosby was doing a award at the Comic Awards. I can't remember the name of the Comic Awards recently. And I was watching it on TV, and he said, you can't be scared of who you are when you're up on stage. Because if you're scared of who you are and you're coming out here and you're shy and timid and hoping that people hear what you're saying, and you start talking really softly, well, if you're not confident in who you are, it's going to come across. And it's going to be very difficult to trust you if you don't even trust yourself. And you're showing that in your body language and your voice. So let's talk about building some confidence. Let's start with imperfection. You're not perfect. It's not going to be perfect, but you are perfectly imperfect. There's so many things that go into putting a presentation together, and you think about it all the time, and you imagine what it's going to be like, and you prepare, but inevitably something goes wrong. Or your inner critic in your head is going to tell you, oh, you're so stupid, I can't believe you just did that, I can't believe you just said that, you just mumbled that, you need to speak clear. I mean, you have this critic in your head just constantly chit-chatting away, telling you what you did wrong. But if you're okay with being imperfect, which I gotta tell you, I love the ladies in this room because I've spent last evening with all of you, and you guys are so warm and so welcoming and so down to earth. And that's what you need to do in your presentations, is just love who you are, be imperfect, learn how to deal with failure. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about how to do it, ta-da. I told some of the ladies last night at dinner, I used to teach figure skating to little kids. And they'd come out on the ice for their very first lesson. And you'd get two kind of kids that would come out onto the ice. The first kind of kid was so excited, smiling, laughing, slipping, sliding, falling all over the place. on the ground, getting back up, going after it again, just giggling, having a ball. And then there was the other kind of kid. And I'd skate up to them and I'd say, "Where's your ta-da?" And they'd look at me like I had 3 heads on my shoulder, like, what is this lady talking about? And I'd say, "Ta-da!" You know, you get to do that every time you fall. And in about 5 minutes, my entire class was purposely falling on the ice so they could all go, "Ta-da!" And just to prove it, there's a picture of me teaching. And all the kids smiling because they were excited. You see, those kids who came out on the ice who were scared of falling, were scared of failure. They wanted to come out on the ice and be the Olympic ice skater the first time they stepped out on the ice. And we all know that's not possible. It's possible, but really not possible. It takes practice. So some things you have to learn how to do for yourself in presentations is learn how to do a ta-da. So everybody stand up. Help me out here. It's okay to fail, right? So on the count of 3, let's all just do a quick ta-da and just have some fun. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Ta-da! Fantastic. Thank you for humoring me with that one. It's about embracing your mistakes. It's about showing some compassion for yourself. I know that when a perfect stranger would fall in front of me, I'd be, "Are you okay? Are you all right? Don't worry about it. It's all right. You did fine. Don't worry about it." But what do we say to ourselves when we fall or when we make a mistake? "Oh, you're so stupid. I can't believe you did that. What did you just do? You're such a loser." I mean, we talk so nasty to ourselves. But to a perfect stranger, we're so nice and caring. So what about showing some compassion for yourself and speaking nicely to yourself? We got to train ourselves to do that, especially when we make a mistake. It's also about practice, practice, practice. Just like those little kids coming out onto the ice for their very first lesson, they can't go off and do spins and jumps and a full-on U.S. Olympic program. It takes years and years and years of practice. And I know we have all sorts of different skill levels in this room, but it's just about getting up there and doing it over and over and over again. Building your confidence, trying new things. We all get nervous. I get nervous when I come up here. There's 100+ ladies here today. Not a day I'm typically used to. I'm typically in my office by myself, truthfully speaking. So nerves happen. So how can you calm your nerves? What are some ways or techniques that you might use to calm your nerves before coming up in front of an audience or before doing a presentation? What can you share with us? Breathe.
Yeah, breathing's important.
Good.
I would love to hear what everyone has to say on this because I obviously need some help with it on my own.
I get really nervous, and one of the things that I found was to get in the room early, make sure everything was set up, and then go around and introduce myself to people so that you sort of had some connection before you started speaking.
Good. That's great. Any other useful tips?
I know it's so cliche, and but then imagine everyone naked, and not for that reason, but because you're vulnerable, just like everybody else. Everybody else getting up and speaking is as nervous as the next person, and when you realize that they're just seeing you, if they were up there, they would feel the exact same way. Just put you at ease. We're all human. We all have flaws, and you're here to say something, and people want to listen. So if you do it confidently, people will listen to you.
Good. Personally, if I vision everyone naked, I start laughing, so. Not you.
One thing that I do is I find a friend in the audience. So even if I don't know anybody there, usually if you smile, someone will smile back at you. and you found your friend, so you have your safe spot and your safe zone that you can always go back to and make eye contact and have that encouragement just in case you need a little pick-me-up.
So we're friends now, right?
I always start well before the day that I'm presenting, and it is over prepare. Know my material inside and out. Never speak on a topic that I'm not 100% confident, because it's thinking that the audience doesn't know what you're talking about or respect what you're saying that I personally makes me nervous. So over prepare before the event.
Good. Well, somebody said it earlier, it is about focusing on your breath and slowing it down. When I came out here, I think you could tell I was a little bit nervous. I spoke a little bit too fast. And usually when I'm doing speeches at Toastmasters and they call me up for my speech, I come out there and I go, and then I start my speech. Because once I take that deep breath, and I don't care if people are listening to me breathe, it allows me to slow myself down. It allows me to gather my thoughts before I start speaking. And if you take pauses throughout your presentation, your speech, whatever it might be, it allows you time to gather your thoughts, and it allows time for your audience to sort of marinate in the last thought that you gave them. So it's really good for both of you. You both get to have a little time to think about either what's next or what just happened. So build your confidence. Find places and opportunities to help you do that. When I moved to Denver, I knew nobody. I was a networker. I knew how to meet people and talk about what I did and introduce myself and get involved in different organizations. But something I didn't realize when I moved here was that while I could stay in communication with all my friends back home, you know, there's email and Skype and voicemail and text and so many different connection devices today. And I thought, no problem. But for a year, I hadn't seen anyone I knew. And that drained me. It made me lose some of my confidence. And I lost my mojo. And I was talking to a friend on the phone, and I'm like, I just don't have that connection with, somebody, and I don't have anyone to say, hey, yeah, Laura's great, you should go talk to her. Everywhere I went, I was game on and telling everybody about what I did, so I was losing a lot of my confidence. So a friend of mine said to me on the phone one day, she said, well, you just need an easy win. You just need a quick success. So what's something that would make you feel confident really quickly if you were able to do it? And I thought about it, and I said, well, I love doing workshops. I love getting up in front of people and talking about something that I love and helping them find new perspectives and new ways of thinking about something. And I thought, well, what's the best way to do that? How can I can organize workshops, but getting people to come is a whole different thing. So that's when I went back to Toastmasters. How many of you are familiar with Toastmasters? Wow, that just got loud. Okay, and how many of you have no idea what Toastmasters is? Well, cool. You're going to learn a little something today. So it is an international organization. It's not just here in the States, and there are clubs or chapters, multiple of them in your town, in your area, that you can look up. And what's great about Toastmasters is not only do you get opportunities to make speeches and learn how to make speeches and different kinds of speeches and build your confidence, but they also teach you about leadership. Because every meeting, there's a role for someone to play. And there's like several roles. And every meeting, you have to stand up and say what your role is and what you're going to be doing in this role. So it's a small little opportunity to speak in public. And it's an opportunity to take responsibility and lead yourself in a little piece of the meeting. So they have two tracks, the competent communicator and the competent leader, that you have to work these workbooks to gain or achieve those awards. But it's also a great place to network. If you're going to give speeches, and if maybe you want to do them about the products and the things that you sell, it's a great way to network and build relationships, and a great place for people to get to know, like, and trust you. You never know who they might know. So Toastmasters was a great way for me to build my confidence. That's how I found it. Are there any ways that you guys use to build your confidence or have a quick win or something that instantly makes you feel like, I feel good again, I got my mojo back?
I once heard a speaker, just like yourself, very early on tell me that about, even in relationships, that it's an 80-20, even with like your husband or your significant other, that about 80% of the time they like you, 20% of the time they don't like you. And my husband used to remind me, oh yeah, that's one of the 20%, Teresa. But it's the same thing, it works basically with your audience, that you're going to score with about 80%, 20%, I mean, if you're good and what have you, and the other 20%, and don't get hung up on that 20% that just didn't see it your way.
Right.
So that's, just, oh yeah, you're one of those. Okay, bye.
Anybody else for a quick win for gaining their confidence back?
One of the things that I was thinking about earlier was how afraid I am to get up and speak in front of people generally. And the idea of presenting scares the hell out of me. But then I thought, okay, what's the scariest thing I've ever done? And I can't remember. Because I don't remember once it's done.
Beautiful. And you just spoke in front of 100 people, by the way. Yay! So it's about finding those opportunities. Ooh, I almost sunk in a hole. It's about finding those opportunities to really build your confidence. And it's also important to toot your own horn. One of the paint companies that I used to work for was very much a boys' club. And I was one of the grunt workers along with one of my coworkers, and we did a lot of the work to get things done. But the bosses in that job saw the request that they made, and they saw the end result. And they didn't see any of the stuff that went on in between. And me and this coworker friend of mine never told them what we did in between. And therefore they were questioning, well, what do you do? Oh my God, I do this, I could rattle off 1,000 things. But because they never really knew what we did, they never appreciated what we did. And it's really important for you to toot your own horn. As a former marketing professional, I used to work with a lot of you. And I would have demands. I need 1,000 of these by Tuesday. No problem. And you go off and you do it, right? But did you tell that person how difficult it was for you to accomplish that by that Tuesday? You had to make 10 phone calls and beg and, promise everything to make that happen? Sorry. So you've got to toot your own horn. You've got to teach people what it is you do so that they can actually appreciate what it is you do. Anybody good at tooting their own horn? You're learning? I'm guessing you're pretty good at it. And we as women don't technically do that as a female culture. We really don't toot our own horns. But mainly men, I think, in their culture, it's like, hey, did you see that $1 billion deal I just did? I mean, they don't have a problem saying it. They don't have a problem saying it, especially on a golf course. They don't have a problem saying it. So it's really important for you to toot your own horn and tell people what it is you had to do to accomplish what they needed. Otherwise, next time they're going to be like, oh yeah, I need this, but I need it by Monday now. And you're like, oh God. Yeah. Testimonials, yes, are important and good, but if you aren't tooting it for yourself and telling people how great you are, if you don't believe it yourself and you're relying on everyone else to tell everyone, it's going to be hard for them to believe you or to believe these other people sometimes. So it's really important for you not to be cocky, not to be, selfish. It's about self-care. It's about you taking care of yourself and telling people about the work that you do. I mean, as mothers, how much do we do that goes unsaid? All the things that go on behind the scenes and planning for a vacation or a trip for your family. You do all the grocery shopping, you do all the packing and all the laundry and all this stuff, but you don't really talk about all the stuff that you had to do to prepare. You just do it. So it's really important for you to toot your own horn. Yeah.
I
just wanted to make the comment. I do think that it is difficult for women to toot our own horns. I know my mother always said to me growing up, that was kind of rude, like, well, don't toot your own horn. But I think I look at the fact, and it really struck me, Teresa actually made a point of sending an email to my boss at, after an event or something I had done, and she tooted my horn. And so I've taken from that and looked for opportunities to do that for other people, because I do think that we as women aren't as great at it as we could be, and it's something that we can all do for one another.
Good.
And I'll add something to that, because Teresa is the consummate self-promotion without making it look like she's out there tooting her own horn. And she does it in very unique ways that I always appreciate, and I think all of us could do it. And I think Sharon made a really good point, and that is sometimes if you don't feel like tooting your own horn, you feel like, that would not convey the humility that you were brought up with, okay, then I'm going to, if I'm going to help somebody else out, remember there's a special place in hell for women who don't help other women, that's a great way of tooting your own horn, by bringing attention to somebody else you respect and appreciate.
Well, that just blows my whole point here. If you don't toot your own horn, no one will. So I'm glad that somebody else is tooting for you.
Adding on that, when people send me an email, say one of my customers will send me an email and say, hey, you really killed it, or that was a great presentation, I loved it, I always send it to Megan. She's my boss. I'll send it to our VP of sales or something. But I always send it on, because it's like a way of patting myself on the back without really patting myself on the back.
Right. No, that's a good way without feeling like you're selfish or, being all, what's the word, cocky, right? So it's also important for you to celebrate your successes, right? We are really good at beating ourselves up to death over failure. And we become successful at something, we do something well, and we're like, okay, yeah, that was good. See you later. We kind of want to pull the cover over it. And it's really important for you to celebrate those successes. And maybe, set a goal for yourself. And when you hit that goal, maybe a certain dollar amount that month, then you get yourself a manicure, and that's your way of celebrating, that success. Or, you buy that purse that you wanted, or whatever it might be. But it's really important for you to acknowledge your successes in some way, because the more it'll build your confidence, and the more confident you can become up on a stage or in a formal presentation, the more they're going to know, like, and trust you. All right, so this one goes right in the face of being authentic and genuine. But when I say fake it till you make it, it's about faking who you are trying to become. You are trying to become confident. So it's about faking that confidence until you actually feel that confidence within you. So it's not about being inauthentic, it's about really faking what you're trying to be feeling for yourself. So it is important to fake it till you make it if you're not comfortable being confident just yet, and projecting that confidence until you know what that really does feel like, the authentic kind. I also want you to have the courage to try and take some calculated risks. If you don't take risks, you're not going to succeed in finding new ways and new things. So I'd say be afraid not to try new things. Part of what really sparked me in getting out of the corporate world and building my own business was a simple quote. And this quote, I'm sure some of you know it. It's, what would you attempt to do if you knew you could not fail? If failure is just not going to happen, what would you try? Because I've learned that the truth is, okay, yeah, you might have setbacks, you might have falls, some trip-ups, but we're all like cats. We'll land on our feet somehow. Or we'll pick ourselves up and find a new way, and find another way of doing things. We can get knocked down, but we can't get knocked down for the count. We will keep trying, and we'll figure it out. So don't be afraid. Try something new. If failure's not an option, what would you do? That quote really forced me to take a look at fear of failure. There's 3 biggest fears that I coach my clients around, which is fear of failure, contrarily, fear of success. Oh my God, what if I actually do succeed? And fear of the unknown. Even our known situation, as terrible as it may be, is really comfortable because we know what to expect. And fear of the unknown, oh my God, it could be, what do we make up in our mind? Worst case scenario. We always make the unknown to be the worst case scenario, when actually the unknown could be anything you want it to be. So why not make the unknown fabulous? Then you'd probably start striving toward the unknown, right? What if the unknown was terrific? So have some courage, take some calculated risks, even with your presentations. Throwing in some things that you're still not quite sure about and you could trip and fall on. It's okay. You're human and you're being authentic. You're being genuine. I don't know what it is, but some people have got it. And I call it the it factor. And Stephen Covey really said it best because he talks about the person who can leaven an entire loaf. And it's because they have vision. They have initiative. They have patience, respect, persistence, courage, and faith. If you're a marathon runner and you're at mile 13.1, you're only halfway through the marathon, you're already exhausted, your feet are killing you, you want some more water, you have to go to the bathroom, and you still have 13.1 miles to go. Oh. To get to that finish line, it's about envisioning that finish line. You're running through the tape. Woo, I made it. You're getting that glass of water, your family is there, your friends are there, you can envision it in your head. That's one thing that gets you through and gets you to the finish line. It's also about persistence. Whatever it is you're trying to succeed for yourself, it's pushing you forward. It's having faith that you're going to make it. Come hell or high water, you're going to cross that finish line even if you're tripping and falling at the finish line, right? You're going to make it there somehow. So it's keeping it in line with what your goal is. What are you trying to accomplish with the presentation that you're giving? Being persistent about what the information is that you're offering. And having the courage and faith to get there. That's the it factor, in my opinion. I don't know what it is, but he or she has got it. On your table are the top 20 presentation tips. It talks a lot about all sorts of different things. When you're making a presentation, know your audience. Know what type of speech or presentation you're delivering. Being prepared, right? You said, having confidence is really knowing exactly all the things that go into your presentation and being fully prepared for it. There's so many key things on here on things you can incorporate into your presentation, things you may or may not have thought of. And on the back side, there are also resources for you. There are books, there are websites, there are even apps. I have to go back and look. I think there's even an app. There's meditation apps that you can download if you want to learn how to breathe before you get up there. You can do that. There's so many different tools. And when I was making this presentation, I thought, gosh, there's so many things I could talk about. And I could talk about all of them for days. But it's really about harnessing the power of your stories. Those stories are what's going to make you memorable and what people will connect with you. They start to get to know you. They start to like you. What stories of mine did you remember today for yourself? Like what stood out for you? What's that? The mountains? Good. What's that? Skating. That I lost my mojo. Good. Toastmasters. Good. So it's not necessarily about all the information that you're posting up on these slides about the facts of the products or any of that stuff, but what happens for you is what stands out in your head is those stories and that connection. And that's really super important. It's also about being authentic and vulnerable and genuine and passionate. You gotta really love what you're doing. You gotta really love what you're talking about, because if I came up here and I talked about presentation skills and I was really just, yeah, you're supposed to do, nice slides, it comes across in your presentation. If you're not passionate about it, then they're not gonna be passionate about it. If you're not confident about it, well, they're not going to be confident or trust in it. What you ooze out to the audience really does translate. In the dating world, I tell my clients, even though you're saying what you need to say on the date or even in a job interview, people can still feel if you're desperate across that table. In a job interview, if you're thinking in your head, oh my God, please pick me, I really want this job, please pick me, please pick me, please pick me. And on the outside you're saying, yes, I would be very good at that. Yes, I know exactly what you need, I can do that. They can still pick up on that energy that's coming across the table. And they may not acknowledge it consciously, but they're gonna say to themselves, no, there's something about that person that just really wasn't quite right. And it's that energy that you have coming across that table. So if you're coming across as desperate, unsure, shaky, it's going to be there. And if you are, it's okay, ta-da. But really, it's about taking care of you, loving yourself, being compassionate with yourself, because it's not always going to be perfect. So, build your confidence. You are perfectly imperfect. Know how to do your ta-da. Calm those nerves, find that mojo, toot your own horn. Fake it till you make it. Have courage, take calculated risks. And have the it factor. And that's my presentation, ta-da! Thank you very much.